Welcome back to the Milwaukee Show, and today we are talking about the Detroit Red Wings, a team that feels like it is a do-or-die season this year. Stevie Y, the Yzer plan, has just seemingly been the ever-proposed, the biblical Stevie Y, the Yzer plan, has just supposed to live up to here, and so far he's just been slowly growing this team very little every year by year, and it feels like they are getting so close. But are they finally going to be close enough to finally grabbing some sort of success and having results to be expectation-wise, right? That is the question, so let's talk about it here. But first of all, if you're excited for the NHL season like I am to happen in just like a week or in like 2 weeks, then you might as well celebrate with me by hitting that subscribe button, because don't you want to stay tuned to all the hockey content that I'm going to be talking about? I know you do. So celebrate by hitting that subscribe button. You'll shoot out some confetti, and we'll celebrate together. Anyways, the Detroit Red Wings. So, this team last year finished the 23-24 season, finished tied for the second wildcard spot. They finished in a wildcard spot, but they didn't make the playoffs because of a tiebreaker with the Washington Capitals, meaning that their 91-point season, the best year they've had yet since with Stevie Y in a while, went nowhere. It meant that they had nothing to show for it. They missed the playoffs again, and now we are entering the 6th year of Steve Yzerman's career, the great Red Wing himself, guiding this team. And over this offseason, he brings in some additions to this team, right? Vladimir Tarasenko, the big one, of course. Cam Talbot in net. Eric Gustafsson signed for $4 million from his pretty good season with the New York Rangers. Tyler Mott down on the wings, right? So, some interesting additions, right? The main ones, right, being Tarasenko, Talbot, and I would say Gustafsson. And overall, right, like, let's just take a quick peek down here at the lineups, right? So you gotta imagine, like, Tarasenko's on the second line. You gotta imagine that he's not gonna be first-line material. So second line is where he's gonna end up, right? Gustafsson, it kind of depends on where he ends up in the roster. I could see him being all the way up, all the way to the bottom. Just definitely good to have, like, those 3 lines that they can roll out there. Like, they definitely have depth-wise for things, right? So, like, overall, this team is a solidly put together unit, right? As a roster, nothing to be ashamed of. But knowing this roster and knowing what they did last year, are these additions going to change or make anything get that much better for them to get to that final next level where they finish above a team like the Capitals? Well, let's ask the question. What held them back from doing that last year, right? What was Detroit's problem? Is this solving the problem? What is the problem? Did you answer, the real answer is defense and goaltending. That was the problem, right? Forwards-wise, they were one of the top teams scoring in the league. They were definitely above the halfway point. They were maybe top 10, maybe just right outside. Regardless, they made most of the NHL when it comes to actually scoring goals. So offensively, they're fine, right? Which I'll talk about in a little bit too, but the biggest issue and the biggest concern with them is goaltending and defense, especially goaltending. They were getting zero support from their goaltending last season. So Cam Talbot coming in after having a fine season with the LA Kings feels like it is an improvement. Without a doubt, it is an improvement from what they had last year, right? But is Cam Talbot the saving grace to the Detroit Red Wings? Is he going to really fix that positional problem they had? He's definitely patching a hole, but it isn't like he's rebuilding the hole in the ship, if you kind of get what I'm saying. There's not a huge upgrade. It is just fixing a problem, right? But defensively too, right? Let's look at the defense, right? Okay, so you got Sherratt and Seider. Seider's good, but he's not kind of playing. He hasn't really developed too great. As what I especially was hoping he would turn into. Sherratt is a fine enough defenseman, I guess. Then you get the addition of Evansson, the young Swedish player, tall guy, but he is new to the NHL, and we know, and no matter what, and regardless if they're Connor Bedard or Brock Faber, right? Look at Brock Faber, right? I don't think Evansson's going to be as good as Brock Faber was in his first true NHL season. But even if he was, Faber is not the greatest defensively, right? Evanson, is he going to be able to fix things defensively for the Red Wings? No. Then you get to guys like Jeff Petrie. He's only getting older, and he's already not really like the greatest defenseman in the world. So, there. Oli Mata, definitely just the throwaway defender in the NHL. And Eric Gustafson, I like Eric Gustafson. Watching him play on the Rangers, he was he didn't get a ton of points or anything, but he was he never felt like a liability on the ice. He moved the puck very well. He did a pretty good job very solidly throughout his time on the Rangers, I felt like. So a good addition there, but overall, this is not a defensive unit that is changing what we already know happened to them last year, right? And then I'd like to take a look at what happened previously, right? You might be wondering, well, why did you add this Hronek trade, right? One of my top videos was talking about the Philip Hronek trade to the Vancouver Canucks, right? The return was a first round pick and a second round pick. I don't remember when. Obviously, those have turned into nothing quite really as of yet. But Philip Hronek was the second highest plus-minus player on the Vancouver Canucks last year. He had 48 points. I think 48 points. Was it 38? It was 38 or 48. Regardless, pretty good numbers for the Vancouver Canucks. When he was on the Red Wings, his final year, he was number 1 in points for a defenseman on the Red Wings. He was a killer on the Red Wings. But when I made that video, all of you were all like, oh, whatever. He's more offense than defense. He's whatever. I'm pretty sure, I would say, other than Seider, I would much rather have Hronek than any of these other defensemen on my team. I would say that. And so, Yzerman's moves, to me, have just, like, as much as he has been definitely active and not like a Lou Lamoriello and just trying to let things figure themselves out, he's obviously been active. He adds in DeBrincat, brings in Tarasenko, brings in Kane, gets comfort, right? He is definitely adding and grabbing players. He's going out there to make this team better. But after all of these years of being bad and having draft picks and stuff, and sure, they do have some interesting draft picks and prospects still coming up the pipe, but nothing is, like, in set right, you know? Like, none of those prospects are here at the moment, right? They're not here yet. They're having a ride at the NHL level. Even if they do make the team, they're not going to be game changers or anything. So this is the lineup that they're going to be able to settle out there. And overall, it's like you look at the offense, and DeBrincat started off the year amazing last year and then fell off a huge cliff. And then you have Dylan Larkin and Raymond. Raymond is good. Definitely solid, great player. 72 points last year. But he's not going to be a 100-point player, right? Especially at least not next season, right? He might get to point per game, but that's not groundbreaking. Dylan Larkin, I feel like you could see a little bit more out of him. DeBrincat, sure. Tarasenko, Comfer, and Kane. I don't know about that. Like, Tarasenko is not the guy that he used to be. Was not. He did really nothing special for the Florida Panthers on their playoff run. Patrick Kane's just getting older. You can only wonder when he's going to fall off a cliff. And then Comfort, never, honestly, me personally, never been the biggest fan of JT Comfort. From him in Colorado here, I just never really have truly cared about him. And in a second line position, I don't know about that. Then you get Kopp, Rasmussen, Fisher, Veleno, Begrin, Mott. One of my biggest concerns with this team overall as well is that the defense, like, core in it of itself, defensively, is not the greatest. Then you get the addition of the fact of the top of the forwards. They're not getting a lot of support up front either, right? The first line of defense is the forwards, technically speaking. And I just don't really feel like they're getting much support defensively from here. This group isn't the greatest shutdown team in the world, and Cam Talbot is a fine goalie. Overall, this team feels like they are in the same spot to me as they were last year. Same spot. Maybe they will get a little bit better. Maybe. But for all their, like, maybe little bits of growth, like if DeBrincat stays competitive and is not, or just kind of disappears throughout most of the season, if he, like, stays competitive, Larkin maybe stays competitive as well. Let's say DeBrincat and Larkin finish in the 70s of points this year. Let's say Raymond is still the star player and he finishes with 82 points, right? Offensively, that's not lethal. right? Especially when you look at the second line, Tarasenko, where he's already not seeming like the Tarasenko that we used to know from the Blues. Comfer is not a big points guy. Kane is especially not the Kane that we used to know and is not very good defensively. So you just keep going through this lineup, and to me, this team is still going nowhere. I have seen no true growth, no true development, no good additions that really are going to change the face of this team. And to me, it's like, where they spend like $4 million on a guy like Gustafsson, or they spend, who was the other player I was thinking of? Or the money on Talbot, right? It's like, where I see them spend money on them, why? And obviously, players decide where they want to go to. But like, what about a guy like Brandon Montour or a Philip Hronek, right? Like, where are these top defensemen? Like, why aren't they grabbing them either? Because clearly, offensively, they're competitive. They have a fine unit up front. But the issues behind them is too lacking to fill their issues defensively as well. And to me, it's just a team that isn't too strong in any category. They are pretty good offensively, mid at best in defense, and goaltending, once again, just fine. Overall, the Detroit Red Wings, compared to where a team like Ottawa fixed a big problem with their hole in goaltending with Linus Ullmark, feels like they can do amazing and jump up better in the standings. The New Jersey Devils feel way primed to get back into a playoff spot, or at least be competitive in the playoffs, or in the run. So they're going to be pushed in that spot too. The Capitals, who did get that spot last year, definitely got better this playoffs. And then the Flyers, with Morgan Frost growing and Michkov getting onto the team, like, they only kind of feel like they're going to stay at least the same as good, maybe just a little bit better. Like, overall, the Detroit Red Wings are in a congested Eastern Conference race. And not even just them. I could keep pulling numbers off the board, or keep pulling logos over. But overall, the Detroit Red Wings, to me, are a team that have done too little to really push them over the line, and are as stagnant they only maybe got that much better, and other teams like the Devils, that much better. The Flyers, maybe about the same, still competitive with this team. And you get what I'm saying. So for me, the Detroit Red Wings, will they make the playoffs this year? I personally do not think they're going to. And let's say even if they did, they are getting swept. Like, there is, maybe they win one game, but I do not see this Detroit team being competitive in the playoffs at all, especially in the Eastern Conference. So to me, that's all I gotta say. So thank you for watching. This made this far. Please, I'm begging you, please subscribe. And until next time, too sweet, have an amazing day, and ta-ta for now.